Sibme we wouldn't be able to do or pull off our coaching process without it. The tool has totally like revolutionized everything that we do as far as our coaching processes are concerned. Even lesson planning now, I mean, we've been able to leverage it so many different ways because of all of the bells and whistles that it has. But uh, talking about like the power of seeing and looking at goals, like this is a great example. This is a huddle that I've made with my colleagues. So this is not a real huddle, like a disclaimer, but it's one that we put together because we wanted to show you sort of like what this next year is going to look like for us and how we at the district level provide support to our campus administrators at a higher level using Sibme. So we are asking principals to engage in lever one to start off the school year of the Effective Schools Framework, which is I think it's a national thing, but Texas has really like grabbed onto it lately as far as sort of like a checklist that if districts and campuses
Hmm.
did, they would have checked all these boxes, so to speak. They would have an effective school. And so that's sort of our framework for coaching or being a principal manager or coaching principals. And so just right off the bat, you could see like lever one is strong school leadership, and this status bar we use all the time. So this is 38% of the progress complete of all of these wonderful items like within lever one. And so what this allows us to do is campus administrators or just anybody in a school system, regardless of what role they play, is inundated with information and things like that. We talked about it, but what this allows us to do is to set parameters on when this is going to start and when it's going to end, and we do have goals because things move quickly in an academic year for our principals to move on to another lever at the beginning of October.
Hmm.
So if I put on like my curriculum hat or my just educator hat, I guess, I'm able to then count the weeks in between and then figure out like how can I leverage those weeks to make sure that principals in this case or educators, I'll use that term, um, get through or complete these things so that they're doing the work of thinking and considering all of this information that act as prerequisites to the next lever that we'll move to. And so one of the things that I love about Sydney is I'm able to give them the success criteria up here in this text box. We started to link like exemplars. So Mrs. Easley, the director of elementary, and I will actually complete the work also, and then we'll give that to them up front. Like we don't make success a mystery. We want them to see what it
Mm.
looks like because how many times do you Google something just to see an example, right? Like why
Love
are we
that.
holding that as like a secret? And so, obviously they submitted their resource here to me, and then I'm able to go in and make comments. And this is where the Sydney really just levels up because then I'm able to make my notes and tag a framework. And what we then do is once we're looking at the document, I'm able to check the items that are present. And so I'll show you in a little bit how we use those analytics to see and use that to inform our professional development. But I'm able to check all of these wonderful things and then tag a performance level here to see if their response was, in this case, we're able to customize these, which is great, but minimal, partial response. What that then allows us to do is look and see sort of where our administrators are just in the field of everything that they've got going on, and then I can choose just the framework that I need. And because we created the success criteria, we're able to then see once these load, like the top 5 tagged most present success criteria
Hmm.
that are within
Hmm.
the principal's responses, and then the least 5 of what is not as consistent. Well, obviously, you could do a ton of things with that information because
Right.
then we're able to see like, okay, well, our principal, there's a gap between teacher supervision, which is performing at a very high level. That's always there. It seems like with instructional coaching, okay, how can we have a
Hmm.
conversation to get this number back up? And then I could just rinse and repeat. And you can honestly, like we were talking about, beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, I, you could use it the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
pull this information at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, however you want to do it. But then we're able to see within each of those success criteria, how is it scoring as far as its performance? Is it appropriate? Is it partially complete? Or is it minimally? So if it is present, then we get to zoom in a little bit more and see, okay, well, what are the gaps in the specific thinking related to, in this case, like teacher supervision, right? it's the same thing we would want in a classroom with our students. And so we just sort of leveraged Sibme's wonderful tools to replicate some of those diagnostic assessments that we would use in a classroom.